your story has to work with who you are as well. And we usually can't see that for ourselves as much. That's why we need somebody to help us.
Hey guys, welcome to today's episode of the Next Step podcast. I'm super excited to have Jaycie Cormac here with us today. She has been putting people on stage most of her life, and she has coached and trained thousands of students and clients from around the world. With her Maverick mindset, she's a speaker who helps women entrepreneurs create powerful and relatable stories to have in their back pocket for any situation, whether it's speaking on the stage or in a podcast interview like this, or in those opportune times in networking moments. Even more than that, she's the founder of a brand new speaking platform called Cartwheels and Banana Peels Podcast for Women Entrepreneurs, which we're going to get into that. But I know, Jaycie, that you call yourself a rebel. So before we dive too much into all the things we're going to talk about today, let's just back up. How did you end up on stage? Like, how did all of this even start?
I was a dancer. That was where I started, right? I just started dancing and starting taking classes or whatever. But as you know, Allison, I have a big, vivacious personality. And honestly, I don't know a stranger. And I do give huge credit to being on stage, having created a lot of that in me and that confidence. But I didn't start that way. I was the little 6-year-old girl scared to freaking death in our classroom play, and I had a paper bag mask. It was a goat mask over my head because we were doing the 3 Billy Goats gruff. If you're a Gen Xer, you might know what that is. So
I totally made this like my favorite story. Just saying. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I was one of the freaking goats trying to get across the bridge from the troll, right? All I was supposed to say, hidden behind a paper mask, was, "Let me pass." I could not. Complete terror. Physically paralyzed, couldn't move. A year later, I was on stage from then on. And by the time I was a teenager, I had been invited to start assistant teaching in the big dance studio that I attended. And then by the time I was 18, I was teaching students in my parents' side yard. And then I opened my dance studio, my first company, a year later. So I was still a baby at 19. And that put me in front of people, students and their parents, oh my God,
Yeah.
day in and day out. And it's just never stopped since then. And I've done more than just teach dance. That was the first company.
That's so cool. So to think that that story is like serving a dual purpose. So not only is it telling us about this transformation experience you went through from being like literally scared, even in an actual literal paper bag, to being on stage, being comfortable being in front of people and owning it, more than just being comfortable, but owning it. But also it like launches into this, you are an entrepreneur at heart, clearly. Who starts their own business at 19 where you're teaching kids and dealing with their parents? Because that's a whole nother level. I mean, that's not just like selling newspapers door to door. I mean, that's a whole business. That's incredible. So, all right. So now we know how you got on stage. We know how you gotten comfortable dealing with people. We can totally tell you're an entrepreneur. Let's talk about how you got into training people. So you're in the speaking world. How did that transition from like being in the dance studio, starting the business? How did you get into the speaking world? What did that look like?
To me, it kind of went hand in hand, because when you're teaching people, I wasn't about just teaching dance steps. Mind you, I broke that stuff down. I did it differently because I'm a rebel. But at the core of why I did it was to empower women and girls. Mind you, I have had boys as students in the past, and I've had male clients, celebrity hairstylists that bounces from, Hollywood to Miami to New York City, lived in Paris, grew up in Paris, whatever. So I've kind of run the gamut on the clients, but it was about empowering them to be more confident, to be who they are, and really share their voice. Because when you do that, and the best way to do it is through telling stories, but when you do that, you truly can connect with your right people. And yes, it will repel the people that go, "Ooh, I don't like her. That doesn't even make sense." Good, because they're not a good fit for you.
Is that not that is the truth to marketing, is attract the right people and also repel the wrong people. You are not for everybody. And that is okay. That it should be that way. So, okay, let's take it. So you said storytelling. Let's
Yes.
go there. Talk to me more about storytelling. How do you teach someone how to tell their own? We all have our own story. How do you teach someone how to tell it?
Well, I'm a talker and I'm ADHD. So over my lifespan, I've had people say, oh my gosh, Jaycie's got a side story, because you're telling a story and then you go, whoop, and then you'll be like, oh, down here, and hang on, we got to go back down the path. I don't even know where we were, which is funny sometimes, but you will lose people. So it's about being concise. So I'm currently on my 4th business. So this time around, I had a company previously that I launched and founded an International Book Award contest. Clearly, I worked with authors, had clients all over the world. Having worked with so many of those clients in particular, getting their story to a concise point so that they could market their book, their story, whether it was fiction or nonfiction, really was where I guess that kind of started. And that was over a decade ago. And so understanding how to bring that shock value or that humor piece and the format of the story, but yet being willing to rock the boat and not necessarily do it like everybody else tells you to do. We have already shared my origin story a little bit here. And at the same time, as you know, Allison, I'm staging a coup against the struggle to success stories. I didn't talk about struggle other than, I guess we could say, the whole I was petrified to be on stage kind of thing, right? But there was humor in it. And I am so adamant about bringing the playfulness, the humor. I am the chick that walks in the grocery store. Mind you, I know everyone there. And hello. And I'm doing the queen wave or something stupid. And they're laughing.
Right.
And it just, laughter builds this bond right away. It breaks down barriers. It builds a bond quicker. And so when we do that with story, the, oh my God, Allison, you're not going to believe what happened today kind of story, it changes everything. And when you share your story that made you laugh, your people are going to laugh at it too. So knowing how to do that and working with people to keep it concise, but being able to do that is just, it's a riot. And to see the confidence that they get from being able to do that. It is me being years back in the wings of the stage, right? Seeing my kids performing and I'm crying. I do the same stuff with clients now. I'm like, oh, I'm so proud of her. And I'm just emotional.
Right. You get all of that. I love it. So obviously you and I connect on that. I also am a very big personality. You know, you and I joke when we get into our networking calls together on Wednesdays, like, hey, welcome to the Cool Kids Club. Like, yeah, you're in our room, right? And because that's just how we are. What do you say to the people that don't think they're funny? Like they don't know how to inject humor. How do you help them, their story in a way that is still engaging and still authentic, but there's that humor level, like you said, it helps people bring their barriers down, it lets guards down. How does that work?
Well, humor is subjective, right? I can sit here and go, oh, one of my most favorite comedians ever, Robin Williams. Not everybody thought he was funny, right? Or you can name any of Fluffy, whoever. You can name different ones. Yeah, he's kind of funny.
Right.
But it's just same thing with music. We don't all like the same kind of music.
Right.
There are plenty of people that are super famous and well off. And I'm not saying you have to be famous, but it's subjective. It's what we like. So I want to reiterate that if it made you laugh, it gave you a chuckle, then you're right, people. If you know how to tell it right and not lose them. So you have to learn that, because it's more than just saying the words. It's more than just getting the story and telling it. It's how you deliver it as well. It gets into body language and the inflection of your voice and the tone of your voice and spacing, and there's other things. That's where the speaking coach part comes in, right?
Right. And those are skills that you can learn, that you teach someone and they can actually learn that. So I just want to pause real quick, because you just said the funniest thing. And it was funny in my last episode with Carol Laws, she wrote her book, and I read her book and I laughed the whole freaking time. And she was like, thank you. My husband proofread my book and he didn't even giggle. Like he didn't even smirk. And I'm laughing because I'm like, my husband doesn't think I'm funny at all. Like not even a little. And meanwhile, I'm cracking up at all the dumb dad jokes, right? Like I think it's hysterical. So I love that you brought that out, that being authentically you doesn't mean you're not funny, but you're funny to your people and not to not your people. So good. Okay. So let's talk about the speaking part. Talk to me more about the skills that you teach.
So that's for me, that's from being years and decades. Let's just age myself. Wait, 50. Oh, Allison. I've been on stage for 50 years. Holy smokes. Well, we can't see too much gray, y'all. Not too much.
I
Anyway,
pull mine. It's fine.
it's all right. It's like highlights. It's fine. So being on, and I want to say too, because this popped into my head a few moments ago. When I was doing dance and gymnastics, I did group classes, of course, and performed with small groups as well as big production numbers. We're talking 20, 30, whatever, 40 people on stage. And I did the solos. So I was out there by myself. And I started doing that by the time I was probably 7 or 8. Those were the scariest times. I remember my first one. I remember standing there shaking. And here I was, this little bitty girl, and all I could think was, I gotta go pee. And you are up next. It doesn't matter. Go on stage and don't tinkle. So by the time I was a teenager, I remember standing there with pom-poms. I was doing some pom routine, and you could hear everything's waiting on the music to start. I'm the only one on stage. And you could hear my pom-poms shaking.
Yeah.
by themselves. So learning how to get up there and practicing it and doing it over and over, and you just get on stage and you keep going, and your pom-poms shake and you fall down or you lose one or whatever. You just keep doing it over and over. That gives you confidence. When you listen to the feedback, when you have a good instructor or coach, then you learn how to project your energy. You gain confidence the more you do it. And so then you can project that. And it is eye contact. It is the body language. There's so much body language that comes into it. So when we're doing an audio side of a podcast, then the tone and the inflection and the pause, or the dramatic pause,
Right.
the pacing, those are different things, but all of those things come into play, especially when we can't see you. Because when we can see you, yeah, you can make the funny faces and things like that. But it's vital that it's on your personality, though. Because as you just said, you and I have this big personality. Not everybody's like that. So your story has to work with who you are as well. And we usually can't see that for ourselves as much. That's why we need somebody to help us.
Awesome. Okay, so now let's take this one step further. So we have my listeners who are these business owners who've been, they've been running their business, they've experienced success, and now they're starting to spin out of control, and they're not really sure how to sustain their business, let alone scale it. And they're wondering, how can I use my story to market my business in a way that's authentic and to reach my target audience? Maybe at this point they're evolving somewhat. How do they use their story to promote their business? What would be the next step for them to do that?
One of the things I did today, I shared a story on LinkedIn, and it's written, right? It's just a text post with some image. And I shared how I was in the grocery store a couple weeks back, and this younger Frito-Lay stalker guy comes up and said, "Hey, Jaycie, are you married?" I was so like, huh? For a moment, I forgot. I'm like, I'm not. I have been. I'm not now. And I'm like, no. And then a couple of moments later, he shows back up and he said, "Are you dating?" And I said, "Maybe. I'm not really actively seeking it, blah, blah, blah." Then I'm in the self-checkout line, and this young man comes up. I have no idea how old he is. He hands me a piece of paper with his phone number on it. And I was like, so taken aback. And I said, wait. How old are you? 22.
Oh my gosh. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
I never have done math so fast in my head. And I said, whoa. I said, "You are 31 years younger than me."
Mhm.
So anyway, and he's like, "I don't care." And I'm like, "Oh my God, I do." So anyway, I didn't want to hurt his feelings. So eventually I had to have the conversation with him, like, "Hey, that's a hard boundary. No, for me, it just doesn't work for me." But the point is, I shared that story because I can relate it to when we're trying to find clients, or when someone wants to come on board with us and it doesn't feel like a good fit for us. We need to set boundaries, blah, blah, blah. So that's the whole thing, right? But look what I just did there. I
Yeah,
took something that you would never think, how in the heck are you could connect that to your business and storytelling?
you did it. Oh my gosh.
You, Allison, did it too. When you shared the story that's going to be coming out on Cartwheels and Banana Peels, you did the exact same thing, my dear, talking about getting the poo on you.
Y'all,
Y'all
okay.
heard that story.
Don't give it away. It's coming out.
No.
It's a perfect transition though. So, y'all, I am going to be a guest on Jaycie's brand new podcast that's dropping. It'll drop before this episode drops, so it'll already be released. Tell everybody about your podcast, the name of it, the theme of it, and then, why you're doing what you're doing with it. Go.
So I have podcasted since anybody knew what podcasting was, kind of from like 2009. So it was way long ago. But I'm starting a brand new one, Cartwheels and Banana Peels, Funny Tales from Women Entrepreneurs. The whole premise is these are short episodes. So other women entrepreneurs can share a funny story. They are, of course, and what they do, but then share some funny or shocking story, and that, or even if it's just the giggle, right, the little chuckle out of it, that's okay. And then they get to, of course, share some sort of offer, freebie, whatever. That's important. We get to promote them. But it's all about, the whole reason is because we're busy. We're constantly kind of hustling. I mean, that's just what we do, especially if we happen to be moms or in a relationship, we have friends, whatever, we're a fur baby mom, it doesn't matter. We have all kinds of stuff going on. So we deserve those few minutes a day to hear one of our sisters telling some hilarious or funny story or shocking, right? So this is that idea of Cartwheels and Banana Peels. That name just came to me like a year and a half or so ago. And I finally said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And on Tuesdays of that podcast, I'm going to be sharing Tuesday tips. How freaking cliche. I'm like, why not? Because, I might as well. Let's just have fun with it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's your podcast. Do what you want with it, right? I absolutely love it. So, y'all, when you go find the Cartwheels and Banana Peels, you will get to hear my little story. Y'all know I'm living in an RV full time with my husband and 3 kids, but there was a 3-month period my husband was not with us, and I had to empty the RV poop tank. And if you can believe it or not, I relate that story to business. So y'all need to go find the episode and go listen to it, and you'll get a little chuckle out of what for me was not so funny at the time, though now I laugh at it. At the time, it was more like tears. But isn't that always how it goes?
When people think they're not funny, you have to look at those everyday moments. It may be your own personal story where you get the boo on you, or some young dude hits on you. You're like, what the hey? And no, that was not a compliment to me. 31 years is not even a compliment. It kind of grossed me out. But anyway, no offense to him. Still don't want to hurt his feelings, but it's about showing who you are, finding the stories. And it might not be about you. It might be about something you saw. Again, I'm going to age myself, Dr. Seuss. Oh, what did you see? This is what I saw on Mulberry Street, if you happen to know that book. And he makes up this crazy stuff this little kid does. But we can tell a story about other people, and it's not always, oh my gosh, the struggle to success stories, you guys, are a dime a dozen. They are not going to make you stand out. What we need to do is to make people feel good. When we laugh, we have the feel good hormones released. I'm getting all serious on you and like biological psychology, but it's serotonin and oxytocin and dopamine and the endorphins.
Yeah.
So when they walk away or they're talking to you, they feel good. They will remember you before they remember the struggle to success story you told. Sorry, but it's true.
No, and you're so right. It's what makes you different is your story. And when you tell your story in a way that makes it memorable, that's going to come through this humor aspect, which I absolutely love. So our time has literally flown by. I cannot believe it. So before we finish, I just want you to tell people, like, what is it exactly? What service are you currently providing? How can they work with you and all those things?
So if you go to storytellingrebel.com, then you can find how we can do, I call it on fire coaching. It's really about, and I do Voxer coaching, talk about flexibility. I have a couple of different options, whether it's, hey, I just want a VIP day, or, oh, I need 90 days. I want to work on more than one story, because I'm such an advocate of having more than one story in our back pocket. So that's pretty easy, storytellingrebel.com. And of course, if you want to be on Cartwheels and Banana Peels, you can always, reach out to me from the Storytelling Rebel one, cartwheelsandbananapeels.com. By the time this airs, should be live though. So you'll be able to go there.
And then you said you're on LinkedIn. What's your handle on LinkedIn?
Jaycie Cormac.
Okay. And then are you on Instagram or Facebook or anywhere else?
Yeah, but I don't really do anything. I really like LinkedIn, but you can reach me on Facebook. So you can always find me. There is no other Jaycie Cormac. So you can find me. I just don't post a lot on Facebook, but I certainly do message and communicate with people there.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for being on here today and for making me laugh. I really enjoyed our time. I I had so much fun recording my episode for your podcast. So y'all need to go find it, go listen to it, and you'll get a good chuckle. JC, thanks again for being here today. Y'all go out there today and make a plan, take action.